good evening. It's Monday, September 12th. So great to start this new week with you again. And welcome to Everyday Talk 24/7. Tonight, I want to continue working out some of the implications of what we've been talking about with anxiety. Anxiety comes from many places, but typically anxiety flows from when we try and do God's job for Him. We're not designed for that. It doesn't work well. And it doesn't do well with us. It doesn't do well with the people around us. So we're going to look at several different aspects, maybe not in a row, but certainly come back to this theme of why are we so full of anxiety? Well, one of those reasons is found for us in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew's Gospel, where we read this. "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other one also. If someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go to 1 mile, go 2 miles. Give to one who is asking or begging from you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you." Now, that passage is one of these passages that winds up being misused and enslaves Christians by the poor understanding that has been given. See, what Jesus is talking about here is matters of the heart. He's not talking about overturning the law, because he begins this section with saying this, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." So this is not a matter of not ditching the Old Testament, of getting rid of the laws and all that. It's about understanding their fulfillment and how all this works. So he says, you've heard it said not to murder. Well, I'm telling you, if you're angry in your heart, it's the equivalent of murder. We don't have a jail sentence for murder, anger in the heart. We do have one for physical anger. He said, don't commit adultery. But I tell you, anybody that looks on a woman to lust after her in his heart has committed adultery. We don't have jail sentences for committing adultery of the heart. As a matter of fact, our culture promotes it. We want people to, quote unquote, look sexy and attract people and all of that, without not even grasping all the wreckage and emotional turmoil that presents. But it's a matter of the heart, not just the physical. Same thing about oaths. So now he says this idea of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What that is addressing is the idea of retribution. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth was not a literal thing where you take somebody's eye out, but what it was about is if someone steals a cow from you, that doesn't give you a right to go take all of his cows. You make the matter right. You get it right. A calf for a calf, a sandal for a sandal, a bushel of grain for a bushel of grain. It doesn't give you the right to rain terror and take this person everything that they have because you want to be about personal vengeance. It's stopping that. But Jesus says that's the way it used to be. Now we're talking about this matter of the heart. Don't get all fired up and excited about those things. Start letting God take care of things for you. So that's the emphasis of what Jesus is talking about here in the Sermon on the Mount. He's getting at the true meaning of what the law was all about, impacting the heart. But you see, when we take these matters of retribution and making things right into our own hands, it doesn't go well. When we are all about justice and making it right with the next person for what they've done to us, that produces anger and that produces anxiety. And it doesn't bring about any peace. Because after you've executed payback, your momentary feelings of feeling good about it, they fade quickly. Because you're taking God's role for your own role. We're not capable of handing out the justice that God can hand out. So this is a matter of not getting back and evil for evil and eye for eye. You did this, I'm going to do this back to you. That's not what Jesus is talking about. When we try and make things right, when we try and execute justice ourselves, it doesn't go well. It produces anger within us because we get upset. How could this person do that? I can't believe it. I'm going to make it right. But then it also brings anxiety. We start worrying. Suppose they're doing something else. What did I do the right thing? And you start second guessing yourself. Should I take action? Shouldn't I? That's the anxiety part. Anxiety, anger, anxiety, retribution, those are your weapons, my weapons. And they are not very good weapons. We have available to us the weapons of the Spirit. When someone says something harsh or out of line, we can respond with a gentle answer. Remember, a gentle answer turns away wrath. We can return good for evil and get out of this cycle of payback. Jesus is saying, let's get beyond the eye for the eye and let's start reaching out. So he's not suggesting here that we literally, the slap on the face is talked about here, strike one, is literally what's being talked about here is a backhanded slap across the face like that. And it's meant to humiliate someone. It's meant to demonstrate power over someone. And Jesus is saying, in a figurative sense of language, just like he says earlier in this chapter in Matthew, if your right hand offends you, if it's stealing, or if your eye is lusting, pluck him out and cut him off. Cut off your hand. Jesus is not saying cut off your hand. It's saying run from that kind. He's saying run from that kind of behavior. Get rid of it. Because as we know, plucking out your eye isn't going to stop lust. Changing your heart will. He's just saying that's the measure with which we have to attack this stuff. What he's saying here, the measure with which we have to attack this desire for retribution, is be willing to take more. Be willing to turn good, to turn evil for good, as Romans 12 argues for us. And Romans 12 argues, let God's weapons be in charge. Leave room for God's wrath and God's vengeance, because he does a whole lot better job of that than you and I ever could. So one of the causes of anxiety that works in us is when we get upset and we try and make things right on our own terms. We try and settle things by our own strength. We try and make it right. All that does is produce anger and anxiety and no freedom and brokenness in relationships. Be free of those aspects of anger and anxiety. Be free of the torment of worrying about what somebody else did wrong to me, and focus on trusting God as Jesus is telling us to. Fight with the weapons of the Spirit and be done with the pressure of anger and anxiety and the worry that comes with it. And find the peace of what it means to fight with the weapons of God and trust him to do what we can't do. Because as soon as we exact judgment in our terms, it's never satisfying. And then the person goes and does it again, and then we're really upset. Take Jesus' words to heart. Change your heart. Leave retribution to God. Have faith in him. And take those elements of anger and anxiety, and you can remove them from your life. At least you can make an attempt to. And know the wonder of the peace of God and the confidence that God is the one that fights for you. That's the thought for this day. Thanks so much for being here. Check us out everydaytalk247.com. If you haven't subscribed, turn on post notifications. Videos will come right to you. Thank you so much for just being a part of what's going on here. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. You have a great evening. Be free of the garbage of just trying to get back. Let God do that. You have a great evening. Bye-bye.